and to shed more light on the important events that took place in the African continent and achievements that took place in African countries in 2022. Also, the role of Egypt in development of African countries. We are joined over the phone by Ambassador Mohamed El Shazly, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good afternoon, Mr. Ambassador, and Happy New Year to you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much indeed.
So, sir, let's first begin with the role of Egypt in developing African countries with a focus, of course, on the year 2022.
Egypt has always been a pivotal driving force in Africa since the struggle for independence in the late 1950s and the early 1960s. And it was a founder of the African Union. Also, Egypt has also always been engaged in the economic development in Africa. We had the Al Nasr Company for import and export. We had the Arab contractors who have been always engaged in building the infrastructure in African countries. Lately, we have seen the construction of the Julius Nyerere Dam in Tanzania. And I think there has been also a private sector enterprise in railway construction I think, in Kenya. So Egypt has always been very active in the development. And I think Egypt, we can call it a driving force, or locomotive of African development and prosperity.
Yes, also the foreign minister in the report which I've just seen stressed on the importance of strengthening the role of the Egyptian Agency of Partnership for Development, the EAPD, and he said that it is one of the most important development arms of Cairo in Cairo and Commonwealth. So can you tell us more about the role of it?
Look, Egypt has two very important things to offer. First, it has the model which can be copied in African countries. We have the model of Hayat Karima, which has developed the underdeveloped parts of Egypt in the countryside, providing potable water and health in Egypt. We have the construction effort lately in Egypt, the bridges, the tunnels, the roads, which are all pivotal things for the development of Africa. The expertise of the Egyptian engineers, the expertise of the Egyptian contracting companies, I think are very important for Africa. The very important thing that I always put great emphasis in is health. One of the major hindrances of African development is the problem of health. You have malaria, you have dengue fever, you have lots of diseases that are endemic in Africa. And without combating this disease that is depleting the human resources of Africa, it will be very difficult for Africa to rise. So also we have lots of examples and lots of capabilities to offer to Africa.
Yes. So, sir, also Egypt participated at the end of 2022 in the U.S. African Leaders Summit that took place in Washington, and President Fattah al-Sisi was keen to attend this important summit. So tell me more about the significance of Egypt's participation in this summit.
As I told you, Egypt is a pivotal force in Africa. It is a driving force in Africa, and it attends these summits. We had last year we had the African American Summit. We had the Chinese African Summit, and also we must not forget the importance of the COP 27.
Yes,
which established the fund for redressing the damages of the climatic change to Africa. Africa is one of the worst affected countries by the climatic change, which is caused by the industrial countries mainly. So also, you know, the efforts of Egypt in fomenting the African drive in the international arena, whether it was with the United States, whether it was with China, whether it is with Europe, I think it is a very important issue, and Egypt's participation is a great boost to these efforts.
And sir, how optimistic are you about Africa's economic outlook for the year 2023?
Well, you know, if we build upon what has been achieved in the last year, or generally in the last year, there have been lots of developments in Africa, but we still have some very serious problems in Africa that we have to tackle, and we have to unite and form a unified front to redress these problems in Libya, in Somalia, in South Sudan, in many parts that are still volatile and need to be stabilized in Africa.
Yes, so on the economic front, how do you see Africa's performance in comparison to other continents under coronavirus circumstances and the Russian-Ukrainian war and all the challenges that face the whole world in the past 2 years? To what extent Africa was affected by these crises?
These are, you know, global issues that need the cooperation of the whole world. The coronavirus, I think, has awakened the world to the importance of combating and forming a single front. You cannot contain an epidemic in one country if you don't have an international effort to combat this epidemic. You will not succeed. Some other things like climate, you need a unified international cooperation. Terrorism, you cannot contain terrorism in one country, it spreads all over the world. So I think with a strong, united African front, we can participate with other partners in the international arena to combat all these problems and all these difficulties.
Yes, sir, also if we talk about the challenges that still face the African countries in 2023, how can they overcome and cooperate to face these challenges?
I think the most important challenges we meet in Africa, as I said before, health.
Yes,
health is a very serious problem in Africa. We have also the matter of a poor infrastructure that has to be developed to facilitate cooperation and trade between countries. You cannot have trade without roads, without shipping lines, without communications. You have to build an infrastructure that foments development and foments cooperation. You have also the problem of illiteracy and ignorance, which you have to. Africa, some of the African countries have the highest illiteracy rates in the world. To build your human power, health and education are the most important things in building the future of your human resources.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Ambassador Mohamed El Shazly, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And back to our reports from Africa and Egypt's developments. Egypt interest in developing Africa is still with us, as Cairo said that its investments in the irrigation field in Africa in 2022 amounted to £106 million. The Ministry of Irrigation said the investments targeted clearing lakes, solar power establishments, and founding dams. Details follow.
The Ministry of Irrigation and Water Resources on Thursday said Cairo had invested £106 million in the sector in Africa in 2022.